Good evening, this is Jack from Charting the Markets, and this is the Bigger Picture webinar for Wednesday, the 13th of November. My disclaimer, it is for educational purposes only. I'm here to share my technical analysis with you. I hope you can take some of what I'm doing, learn from it, transfer it to your own charts. I'm not here to issue trading signals. Right. Okay, let's have a look at ES first. And we saw another sideways day today. I was leaning towards seeing a retest of the high today. We didn't see it, but I am thinking we'll probably see that in the next couple of days. This looks like a bull flag forming, and most likely because it is a bull flag forming. Could this be a head and shoulders forming? Just about, yeah, it could be. But there's not much sign so far that it is. Obviously, all the sell signals made target on ES, NQ, RTY, and YM. We had 60-minute sell signals across the board, and they all made target yesterday. Looking at NQ, now this is an interesting one because we actually had a head and shoulders here which broke down slightly and looked as though it was rejecting, and I think that might have failed. And a fail would set up a retest of the high, but it's pretty marginal at the moment. Looking at RTY, no obvious topping pattern there. Possibly heading towards the head and shoulder neckline, but I do actually have something on the RTH chart that I'm going to be looking at. On YM, all right, hang on 1 second. On RTY, I would mention we had a 60-minute buy signal fix this morning. Obviously, it's not really got very far so far, but I'm still thinking that might play out. It didn't quite reach the possible near miss target. Looking at YM, YM could be a flag forming, could be a head and shoulders forming, keeping an open mind on it, but leaning towards the flag option. On DAX, we had a possible 60-minute buy signal brewing this morning, and we've still got a possible 60-minute buy signal brewing. It never fixed today. This is an interesting one because you can see actually on DAX and ESTX here how little effect. This Trump rally started a week ago, and it didn't happen on DAX. We had a little bit of a rally, and we're back below where we were before. So on the Europeans, well, this is just an American thing, but it is a big American thing, and obviously it's been a very sustained rally. Is there much cause to see a retracement here? No, there isn't, because of course it hasn't gone up. So waiting to see how this develops. On the bigger picture, I'm leaning fairly strongly towards an upwards trend into December, but of course it doesn't have to be continuous, and you would expect to see some retracements. I think this is one of those retracements. It could go deeper, but it doesn't need to. All right, looking at the daily chart, we've seen a bit of a pullback from the daily upper band, which is not unusual. If we break down further, it could be that we're going to be setting up to go to the daily middle band at 58.50, but there's no particular reason to think at the moment that that's what's happening. On the hourly chart, no current divergence. We went down too low to generate any. On the 15-minute chart, no current divergence, and at the moment it looks like a flag forming, but it could make a lower low below yesterday's as part of that flag forming. Looking at NDX, on the Qs, daily chart, just below the daily upper band, mainly because the daily upper band has continued going higher, whereas Qs have stalled. On the hourly chart, no current divergence and no prospect of getting any, because again we went below the 50 level on the RSI. On the 15-minute, we had an RSI 14 sell signal, which has made target. Sorry, I didn't actually change the sign on that one. This looks like a bull flag forming, and this one is the one that has retraced the least. Looking at Dia, we've seen a bit of a pullback here, again off the daily upper band, but not a great deal off it. This is the one which has got down to the 70 level on the daily RSI 5. We could set up a nice sell signal and retest the high, but there's no particular reason to think it would be a double top and then reverse. On the hourly chart, no current divergence, and on the 15-minute chart, we've got an RSI 14 buy signal fixed. Possible head and shoulders forming here, but it's thin. It's not really much of a pattern. All right, looking at the others on IWM. We had a head and shoulders here, which has broken down, and that's got a target in the 231 area, and that's the only really identifiable and decent looking topping pattern on any of the RTH 15-minute charts. We'll see how that goes. Hourly chart, we've got an RSI 14 sell signal, which has fixed and has not yet made the possible near miss target. So we will see. This one is the one that's retraced the most and come off the daily upper band the most and actually had the weakest day today. Could this still be a bull flag forming? Well, actually, any head and shoulders can be a bull flag forming. All it has to do is reject back above the right shoulder, and then it has the same function as a flag because it's got a retest in the prior high. All right, great. Let's have a look at DAX. DAX seeing more weakness. This is actually so weak it's down below the daily lower band. Or at least got below it at one point today. So that is some pretty weak action. Nikkei, this has never actually got back over 40.3. This could still potentially be the head and shoulders that I was looking at when it was down here, and is back below the daily middle band at the end today. Was it? No, slightly above it. Recovered slightly above it, but is thinking about it. No obvious reason, though, to think that this is going to go lower, and nothing really on DAX to suggest that either. All right, great. Let's have a look at the CL chart. Okay, CL. I was thinking this was a consolidation before we went down to the target here. We didn't quite make it. We got really close on the double top. Minimum target was at about 66.7. We made it to about 66.9. That could be close enough. Bigger picture, though, it's hard to see that Trump getting in, and although admittedly, of course, he's still a couple of months away from an inauguration, but it's hard to see that Trump getting in isn't bearish for oil prices. Although obviously it's in a world market and it's complex and so on and so forth. I do have a target down in the 63.57 area, and I really don't think Trump's election has hurt the chances of getting there. I think it's likely to get there, but it doesn't need to get there straight away. NG, this is an interesting one actually, because we broke over this resistance trend line and we've come back and back tested it and then made a higher high. This could be a double top, but it'll be interesting to see whether this is a launch pad to go higher, and if so, it could go considerably higher. Let's have a look at that on the bigger picture charts. On CL, the current divergence. Looking at the triangle, we broke down from it. It's got a target at 63.57, and we're not far away from that. I'm leaning towards this being this 63.57 being hit before too long. That is a decent support level. Doesn't have to hold, but there's a reasonable chance that it will hold. If so, this could be a double bottom to take this considerably higher. Obviously, chances of a big rally in oil after a test of 63.57 are not improved by Trump's election, but again, it's not out of bounds either. NG, no current divergence. Rally has taken us high enough that we could probably start setting up some RSI divergence, but we haven't got any yet. In terms of this setup here, we are away from the triangle here. We're going back up. We're pretty close to this high at 310. And the other thing I'm aware of is that in a few days, we're going to switch over to the January contract. And at that stage, I think in about a week or so, and at that stage, then of course, we're going to have another 30 cents uplift because that's the amount that the January contract is trading above the December one. If we're at this kind of level, then that will basically have gone from 250 to 340 in just two rolls, not because the price really moved at all, but because the rolls actually took us there on each roll and it held it. So we will see how that goes, but I do have a couple of trend lines up here. This was my favorite, and we've gone through it as triangle resistance. I've got a couple of other options here. The next decent one I've got at about 3.45. All right, looking at GC. GC, we had a 60-minute buy signal this morning, and this went down mainly because the dollar went up. You can see what happened with the dollar today. We had a 60-minute sell signal fixed here this morning, and that has gone up significantly. And we've also had this nice trend line here, and it's gone up through that too. I'll talk more about that on the bigger picture chart, but in reaction to the dollar going higher, the GC has been going lower. So could it go lower? Yeah, I've got more to say about this on the daily chart. But we've long since made the original head and shoulder target, but we do still have a daily RSI 14 sell signal, which I'll have a look at. Looking at silver chart, we've broken up slightly over this possible falling wedge here. Nice looking resistance trend line. The support trend line, not so much. But we've got a possible double bottom here, which I'm considering as a possibility, but I'm not seeing anything really compelling saying it's going to play out. And HG certainly isn't working the argument for going higher. We've got a possible 60-minute buy signal brewing, but so far this is looking very weak, and I am wondering about a move down lower. We shall see how that goes. Let's have a look at those on the big picture. Looking at GC. GC, on the daily chart, the RSI 14 sell signal wasn't actually here, but if it had been, it would have been reaching the pretty close to the 30 level. No current positive divergence here on the RSI 5, I would note. Looking at the chart here, we've reached the possible near miss target on the daily RSI 14 sell signal, and we've broken below this rising support. This is a potentially significant looking break. We are pretty close to the 3SD lower band, so we're looking at a little stretch to the downside, but this is an opportunity we had to set up some positive divergence on the RSI 5, and it was not taken. Let's have a look at the others. SI, we do have a possible RSI 5 buy signal brewing. If it goes much lower, then it could go through that. We have reached a potential head and shoulder neckline, and this would be a very obvious level to see a bounce up to 33.225, which should be the left shoulder high here, and then make a decision as to whether to continue directly higher or to come down and potentially break down from a double top with a target in about the 25.5 area. We'll see. All right, looking at palladium, this has been very weak and given up almost all of the prior gains. We'd managed to get up to 12.55, and we're now back to 9.30. The prior low is at 8.20. Looking at platinum, again, sizable gains, mostly surrendered. So do we have any positive divergence on either of these? No, but they're both looking pretty oversold. You don't often see the RSI 5 on this reach 10, but it's just done it. This has been a very, very steep decline on both of these. Looking at copper, copper, again, has been a steep decline, but not as steep. I am wondering at this stage about a move down to retest this low here at 3.9645. Looking at the looking at the chart here, that would be this low here at 3.921. And we've now reached a stage. I did say that there was a possibility when we got through the 200 DMA that it would just continue down, and it has. The obvious next target at this stage would probably be a retest of 3.921, and we will see how that goes. GDX, looking oversold here, but nothing, no positive divergence. On the hourly chart, we had a buy signal on the RSI 14, which failed. We do have a possible RSI 5 buy signal brewing now. Looking at GDXJ, this hadn't reached the obvious trend line at the last Bigger Picture webinar, and it's now broken through it. We'll see how that goes from here, but obviously that was a support level that could have held and didn't. Again, on the RSI 5, it would have been easy to set up positive RSI 5 divergence, and we haven't seen that. On the hourly chart, quite a lot of positive divergence, but keeping an open mind on it at the moment. We could most definitely go lower on precious metals, and I'll be talking about that possibility again when I'm talking about the dollar. All right, let's have a look at ZB. ZB, I've been expecting to see more rally here, and it may be that we're going to see a larger rally after a retest this low, which we're pretty close to. No current positive divergence, but I'm surprised this hasn't been going up. Particularly as one of the drivers for rising dollar might have been rising yields. And this could, which have been rising as ZB has been going lower. Maybe that's what's driving ZB. Thus, the dollar is carrying all before it. But the dollar is carrying all before it currently. We've got up to 106.51, and this was actually one of my next big targets. I've got a 60-minute sell signal fixed here. Obviously, it's not delivering anything at the moment. Let's have a look at this on the bigger picture charts. Now, on DX, RSI 14 sell signal fixed, and that's really delivered nothing. I've got a possible resistance trend line here, which I'm watching, and I was talking about that being in the 106.3 area, and we're almost there. Weak RSI 14 sell signal on the RTH chart, that hasn't failed yet, but it's starting to look as though it might. We're now back up to retesting this high here in the 106.5 area. We retested this one. We've got another one slightly higher at about 107. And then, if we get that far, I've got a possible resistance trend line I was talking about in the currently in the 109.3 area. I'm starting to wonder if it might make that. We will see. Looking at the TNX charts on the hourly chart, I've got an RSI 5 sell signal fixed, which isn't doing anything at the moment, and I've got an RSI 14 sell signal fixed and an RSI 5 sell signal fixed on the daily. We're also at a really major resistance level at flag resistance, which we've come back and tested again today. Now, it may be that we're just setting up a topping pattern to go down, but really it should be going down here. If we go up and break up through that flag resistance, then at that stage, I'll be wondering if we're just going to be breaking up earlier than usual and that the rally NZB is cancelled. That would be disappointing. But, you know, it sometimes happens. We'll see. All right, let's have a look at KC. KC has been going higher. More to say about this on the daily chart. No current negative divergence. SB is breaking my bull flag support trend lines. Now, looking at the trajectory of this over the last couple of months, it's very hard to interpret this as anything other than a bull flag. But I don't have a decent support trend line here at the moment. We had one and we lost it for the triangle. This one was a possible contender, but it was a channel support and we'd already gone through it slightly, which was not great. And now we've gone through it with more thoroughly today. We do have a possible 60-minute buy signal brewing, but we'll see how it goes. CC has broken higher and could go considerably higher from here. No current negative divergence. CT has gone lower, and we had a very nice looking possible double bottom forming, and that has disappeared now. So could this still be bottoming out? Potentially, but we're not seeing much sign of it, and there is no positive divergence on the hourly chart. Looking at ZW, ZW, we've got a further move down here today. No current positive divergence. Corn also had a bad day and is trying to break below the weekly pivot. No current topping pattern, although one could be forming. On soy, lovely double bottom here that broke up last week. We have been retracing steeply. If we retrace much more, I'll be thinking about this failing and heading back to the lows. But I think under 1,000, I'd be seriously concerned about that. In the meantime, we've got a weak 60-minute buy signal, which has fixed and is not delivering anything yet. Looking at lumber, lumber is creeping higher, possible 60-minute sell signal brewing. Looking at live cattle, we've got a breakdown below the weekly pivots and holding at the moment. So we do have targets below on a double top. And I've got a target in about the 180.5 to 181.5 areas. We'll see how that goes, but at the moment I'm not seeing anything to suggest that won't make target. Lean hogs broke a little higher. We had this tiny little pattern here, and then that made target, but we're holding the monthly pivot at the moment. As long as that remains the case, chances are we're going to go back and retest the highs. All right, let's have a look at those on the bigger picture charts. KC, I was talking about the last bigger picture, this really nice looking possible trend line on KC, and it's nice because it's a channel support trend line. And if it holds, then obviously we could be heading back to the corresponding trend line, which I've got up here in about the 2.95 to 3 area. I'm thinking, well, obviously it's been performing pretty solidly since then. We've come back up, and what was the high today? 2.727. We've come back up and retested this high today. This could be the second high of a double top, but if it continues higher, I'd be thinking 2.95 to 3. Looking at SB, SB is still looking like a bull flag, no longer looking like a triangle. But at the moment, I'm wondering whether we might see a larger breakdown. But this is such classic flag action here that I'm still leaning towards this being a flag. Looking at CC, CC, no current divergence. We broke up from this triangle here. We've come back and retested this high at 7862. The next high is at 7984, and that is the obvious next target. Nothing to say that we're not going to get there. On wheat, RSI 14 buy signal, I'm calling because we've reached the 30 level here, or at least we're reaching it. So I'm going to write that off and put no current divergence here. Looking pretty oversold on the RSI 5, wondering at this stage about whether this is a rejection back into the low here at 520.60. We will see how that goes. All right, looking at corn. Corn broke up from this triangle and made the triangle target, which was, of course, a retest of the triangle top. So it doesn't actually technically need to get any further. Is this a larger pattern? Could be a cut with handle, but it's not a pattern I've ever liked or thought was reliable. Keeping an open mind, but at the moment we're seeing a pullback at resistance. No current divergence on soy. We've got a weak RSI 14 buy signal that's fixed. We had an RSI 5 buy signal, which is obviously long since made target at the same time. Nice looking double bottom here, and as long as we can hold on to the daily middle band here, which I've got just basically at 1,000, as long as we can hold on to the 1,000 area, this should head up into this target in the 1055 to 60 area. If we lose that, then I'd be thinking in terms of a rejection back to the low at 977.20. Looking at cotton, RSI 14 buy signal has reached possible near miss target, and I'm on the verge of signing that off. RSI 5 buy signal made target. I'm wondering about a retest of the low here too on 66.26. And of course, all of these are struggling to a certain extent against the fact that the dollar's up more than 5% in a couple of months. We will see. The dollar could go up further, and that could affect precious metals and these as well. So we will see how that goes. And at the moment, there's no particular sign that the dollar is about to turn. All right, great. In that case, that's a wrap. I will leave it there, and I'll catch you guys Sunday.